You'll start with our chant again tonight? Yeah. When it's time.
So you have the Zoom there and there. Oh, the Zoom is there.
Zoom is there.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you record the classes or not? Okay,
I don't think we
perfect. Saves me from getting in a lot of trouble. Hello, Haima. You can't hide behind that.
Good evening and namaste, Swami. How are you?
Namaste.
How is
Very
Atlanta
well.
for you? How is Atlanta for you?
Oh, beautiful.
It is. It's
Oh,
I miss
wonderful.
that weather. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a very nice place to live.
Yes.
We have like 5-6 inches of snow on the ground here. Last night it snowed.
Really?
You escaped from this.
Yes. Well, tomorrow the high is 65.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have 60s this week. This week it's coming 50, 60, starting tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be back on the 5th.
I know you have 2 weeks, long stretch there. That's
Yeah,
great.
long stretch, but then I'm only back for one day and then I'm off to India, to
I know.
Bellarmont
Wow.
for the
One
rest of the
day
month.
here and then go back to whole month.
Yes.
This is March. It should be hot in India.
Don't say
Very.
that.
You will be inside. You will be inside air conditioned probably.
No, there's no air conditioning at Bellarmont. The
Oh,
only well, the last time I was there, the only air conditioning at Bellarmont was in the computer room.
when was that? How many years ago?
That was 2012.
Oh, this is 25. Oh, I'm sure they have air conditioner now. This is 13 years ago. That was different.
Really?
Yeah.
The definition of renunciation has changed, huh?
Well, that's true. Yeah, well, that's hard. The Indian heat is very extreme.
Yes, it is.
That heat is very extreme, hundreds and 120.
But you know, when I was in the pre-probationers training center for, the novice wing, at that time they were still having the conversation of whether or not to put ceiling fans
Oh my God.
in the brahmachari quarters. The Swamis already had it.
Oh, you can't live
The
without a
Swamis
ceiling.
got ceiling fans,
Yeah.
but the brahmacharis had no fans even in their room.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah. It's Indian heat, March, April, May are the peak months
Oh
in
God,
India.
yeah.
Peak heat. It's a
No.
summer there.
No, yeah. I've never been there in the summer, but our Upanishad,
Oh,
he has red hair and very white skin, and he spent the summer there, and he said he was wet for 4 months.
yeah. It's like taking a bath almost all day long.
Yeah, he said he would take 4 and 5 showers a day to stay cool.
Yeah,
And sometimes
exactly.
he would dump water on his tile floor and turn on the ceiling fan and lay on the wet floor.
Well, we pray for AC for you there. It's impossible. Even I can't tolerate, although I was born and raised, it's very difficult to breathe.
Yeah.
It hurts even the breathing when you go in summertime. It's impossible.
Yes, well, let us not talk of these things anymore
Sure. Let's get to
until I'm already there. And
I
once I'm there,
know.
well, then we'll deal
No,
with
I
it.
think you will have air conditioner. You will have air conditioner, definitely. We pray for that for you.
All right, thank you. Maybe throw in a little moksha to go with the air conditioning.
Are you going to come on Zoom from India?
Oh,
By
yes.
chance? You are coming to us, we can see. Oh, great.
Oh, yes. No, we'll do all the classes unless it's impossible, but I don't think it's impossible.
You should have good Wi-Fi now.
Oh, yeah. No, they've got great Wi-Fi.
I am so glad that we could be in touch with you while you are in India. That's
Oh, me
great.
too. Yes, I carry my family with me everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. Thank
Hello,
you.
Trikino.
Namaste. I was muted.
Yes, yes, I know. It's all right.
Would you? We will get your schedule from India, time and what day?
It will be the same as it is now.
Okay.
I'll change my schedule, but the schedule for everybody that attends the classes will be the same. The only difference for me is that the morning classes will be in the evening and the evening classes will be in the morning.
That's right.
So that's all that changes. No problems.
And the
When I
same
was-
website. Same website.
Same everything, just like you normally do.
Good.
No change for you at all.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. No, it's easy to do that from India. When I was in Europe last year doing it, I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to give the class.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, Switzerland and all those are all like 8 hours or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Mid-morning, yeah, early, very difficult. Well, I'm glad we get to hear you continuously throughout March while you are there in India. You will tell us whether you have AC or not.
Yeah, well, I'll try and do some of the classes out on the Ganges and, in front of Dakshineshwar and.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Om Shahana
Bhavatu Sahana Bhunatu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
May the divine being
Look over
Look
us
us
lovingly
lovingly.
as a mother and father.
May the divine being
Support and nourish us as a mother and father.
may we have the strength and skill
To study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. Makes me feel Episcopalian. All right. Well,
It's all one.
it is all one. Absolutely. I know this from experience. God is one and in love with all. So we've been looking at the Katha Upanishad, which is the story of Nachiketas. And we covered yesterday in chapter 1 that Nachiketas is basically telling us our current situation. That he has understood that he is sitting in the waiting room of death. And we have come to know that we also, very much like Nachiketas, are sitting in the waiting room of death. And that Nachiketas is desirous of knowing what's up, what's the truth of this experience of being And you and I are gathered here tonight with the same idea, wanting to know the same thing. And we learned that in the meantime, in that Upanishad, death is trying to discourage Nachiketas from looking for the truth. So he's trying to distract him. Oh no, here, have all of these dancing girls, have elephants and chariots and money and kingdoms and anything you want. And we come to know that our condition is the same, that as spiritual seekers here, perhaps it's death, who knows what it is, our own desires that are all being titillated constantly. No, don't worry about that. You know, come on over here and have some fun with us. You know, oh no, the point of life is money. The point of life is success. The point of life is a family. The point of life is X, Y, and Z. Anything to distract you from the pursuit of knowledge, for an understanding of what the nature of being is, of who you are and who the divine is, and what your relationship with that, if it's in fact separate from you, what is that? And so he begs death for this knowledge. Death has offered him all of these things. And I'll just read the little paragraph here because it's so beautiful. He says here, Nachiketa said, "O death, all of these things endure only until tomorrow." Right? Everything in this world has an expiration date on it. Right? And if you look at it with a very broad eye, you understand there's only one thing we can actually get and own in this world. And what is that? Anybody remember? No.
Yes.
That's it. That's exactly it. A bucket of potting soil. Your wife, your husband, your children, your car, your house, given enough time, will simply reduce back to a bucket of potting soil. So if you are in the market for a bucket of potting soil, you're in the right place. That's the only thing you will be able to get in this world. Unfortunately, you won't be able to take it with you, but you can dump it over your head, you know, and help them bury your body, if you like. But there's nothing else to get here. You came into this world with nothing, you know, naked and screaming, and you're going to leave it in the same way. Hopefully not screaming, but possibly, you know, and you leave with nothing. And so that should be a very easy lesson for us, that the point of life is not accumulation, simply not that. But even with that obvious lesson, many of us are still running, trying to satisfy ourselves with something outside of ourselves. And the scriptures have taught us clearly that if you depend on anything outside of yourself for your joy, for your contentment, for your bliss, you're a slave to that device, whatever it is. You know, I had a very interesting conversation. I was a rather mischievous brahmachari, and I asked Swami about drugs. You know, when I joined the monastery, I said, Maharaj, I said, you know, lots of my friends, and we'll stop the sentence there, used to do drugs and have these very divine experiences of a beautiful bliss, and they used to see divine beings and have these experiences. I said, what do you think about that? Is that real? Is that true? And you know, I thought that I was sort of purposely poking him. I thought he was going to come down on, no, absolutely not, that's terrible. But he didn't. He was very honest. He said, yes, you can have divine experiences through the use of those things. You can. He says, but you see, the ideal of religion, the ideal of the Vedanta is freedom, freedom of the soul. And if you develop a dependence on something outside of yourself, even to experience God, you are beholden to that thing. You will always have to be able to get that drug. You'll always have to be able to pay for that drug. You'll always have to be in a space where that's available to you. So it is not your bliss. It is not your experience of God. It is something that is being lorded over you by something you have to possess and go and get. So you have become a slave. And he says, our watchword in the Vedanta is freedom. We want a freedom of the soul. So you have to find all that you need within yourself. You have to come to find the kingdom of the divine within and see the face of bliss, the face of love and wisdom within yourself, and learn to access that, learn to know yourself to be that, and to return to the kingdom of heaven, as they say. So that was the first chapter. Tonight we're going on to chapter 2, and Yama is now going to go on and give some beautiful teachings to Nachiketas. He starts off here saying, the good is one thing, the pleasant is another. Both of these, serving different needs, bind a man, right? Lead a man into this slavery. It goes well with him who of the two takes the good, but he who chooses the pleasant misses the point, misses the end, right? You don't reach the goal if you take the pleasant. And what is the pleasant? You know, you can usually tell what the pleasant is and how it's different from the good by looking at how this will affect your tomorrow, right? At this moment, it may be very pleasant to, you know, I don't know, do anything enjoyable, whatever it is. In the morning, it may be pleasant to lay in bed and sleep through your day, right? But with that kind of habit, that kind of indulgence, you'll miss out, right? That's without that self-control, you'll miss out on a lot of things in life, and its sum total of effect on you will be negative, right? So always look at the things at hand and consider: is this pleasant or is this good? How is it going to affect me tomorrow? Will I be happy tomorrow that I have done this today? That's a good test. It's not an absolute test, but it's a good test for checking out if you're not sure whether you should do something or not, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit. Because if you choose that as which is helpful to you, your life gets better and better as you go along, right? And if you choose that which is pleasant, you know, that which is indulgent of the senses, your life's going to get tougher and tougher as you go along. It's guaranteed, you know, and that's not a belief. That's not a philosophy. That's not an idea. It's the reality. And, you know, long before I had any indication of spiritual life or any interest in Vedanta, and certainly long before I was a monk, I remember seeing that in myself. You know, I remember, I think I shared that yesterday, you know, that I was walking home from my enjoyment that during that weekend and realizing this is not sustainable. You know, when you're young, and if you're handsome and you've got money, then you can enjoy and have the energy for going out and dancing your night away and, you know, finding your lovers and finding your friends and finding your whatevers. But add years to yourself, become 50, 60 years old. Where is your energy? Where is your beauty? Where are the devices that you used to lure your enjoyments to you? And you're left with nothing. Right? And that's what he's saying here. If you live a life depending on things that will not always be yours, to get things that you want that will not last, at some point, you're going to grow bitter because you're no longer going to be able to attain the things that you desired. You're no longer going to have the energy to enjoy the things that you have. My friend Bill, who was an elder care person, took care of the elderly. And I can't mention this person's name because like many super rich people, everybody knows them. But this particular woman, the Symphony Hall in San Francisco is named after her family. And so she lived in a beautiful mansion on Billionaires Row in San Francisco with a gorgeous view of the entire bay out her window. But it was her last days and she couldn't get out of bed. So even though she had this beautiful mansion, you know, $30 million home on the top of the hill in San Francisco, she got to enjoy a single room. She could enjoy exactly what I was enjoying in my monk cell down the hill from her, you know, a single room that she could not get out of. And Bill would talk of the bitterness and the anger she had because she could hear her own children in the next room talking about and fighting over the inheritance already, you know, with her laying there and dying. And he said he learned such a lesson from that, you know, that you may own all the things in the world, but there will come a day when all you can enjoy is one room and maybe only the bed in that room. You know? And so it's always good to keep a broad perspective on your life. Don't be caught by surprise, you know, don't sit there. This is what Yama is telling you. Consider the good versus the pleasant, you know, and take those things which last. Look for that thing that does not change, right? Ramakrishna tells us that which changes is unreal, right? That which is unchanging alone is real. It's a beautiful pointer. So find within yourself that thing that has not changed, even though your body has changed and your mind has changed thousands of times in thousands of ways. So look for that which is the source of your awareness. Look for that awareness itself within you. That's the nature of God. That's the image of the beloved. And when you find it and you sit silently in its, placing its light on itself, the first thing you become aware of is a divine bliss within yourself. That's constant, but so constant and unchanging that your mind has turned it into white noise, so that you've stopped feeling it. You've stopped being aware of it, right? You become inundated with a wisdom that's spontaneously available to you, but you miss it because you go to your mind, you go to your brain, you go to the relative world for your wisdom and for your knowledge. You don't sit in silence and know it, right? And so you don't get to experience that silence because you're in the noise of the mind. The world of constant change is the mind, a constant flow of unrepeating change, all dancing before you, the witness, that same witness which exists in all of us. It's one. It's not multiple. It has no boundaries. And so Yama is telling us, be careful. Seek out that which is good, that which looks like it's going to foster a better tomorrow, for your experience. Don't go for the pleasant. Don't go for the things of the senses. Don't let that be your decision. He says that both the good and the pleasant present themselves to a man. The calm soul examines them well and discriminates, right? Looks at them very carefully. Okay, this is a changing thing. Let's take this to the nth degree, right? What does this look like if I gave my life to it, right? So that first time, I remember when I was 8, I have conflicted feelings about confessing these things in public all the time, but when I was 8, this is an easy one though. My mom was a smoker. And so when me and my cousin Heather, when my mom was out of the room, stole 2 of her Kent cigarettes from her purse, and we went out into the yard and hid and lit up a cigarette and smoked a cigarette, and it didn't go well. I was an asthmatic, so it instantly threw me into an asthma fit. I was hacking and coughing. My face was bright red. My eyes were all watery and red. And of course, my mother comes out. Oh my God, what's happened? What's that smell? Have you guys been smoking? What have you done? Heather had to finish the cigarette. I was an asthmatic, so they didn't make me finish my cigarette. But you see how life is. If you are calm and you discern, you never need to smoke more than 1 cigarette to know that this is not what my body wants. This is not healthy for me. Nobody smokes that first cigarette like, what a lovely flavor that is. That's so nice. Everybody hacks. Everybody coughs their lungs out on that first one, right? And so this is how we live. We watch very carefully the things in our life and we measure them carefully. We discern, what is the effect of this? What is the reality telling me, right? Because we live in God, right? We are an image of God living within God. And so this world will lead you in the right direction if you pay attention, right? If you discern carefully, because that's the point of it. The point of it is to bring you home. The point of it is to train you in the perfection of love, into the acceptance of wisdom, and into the complete and utter destruction of egoism, of the idea of body, mind, and separation from others, to teach you unity, to teach you freedom, to teach you absolute love that has no boundary, no requirement, no condition, and a grace that's equally as free and open, right? And this world and experiencing it with open eyes will lead you in the right direction. So that person, that calm soul, examines all things well and discerns carefully. Yea, he prefers the good to the pleasant, but the fool chooses the pleasant out of greed and avarice. I was surprised to find that avarice was just another word for greed, although a much stronger sense of greed. And I thought, interesting, why is he just talking about greed there? Why is that the 2 choices, right? Because pleasant always has to do with the senses, and the senses belong to body. And when one identifies with themselves, with the body, it says, I'm a body, then one wants the pleasant and one begins to look at the pleasant. And where does greed come in? Well, you're one body among 7 billion bodies. And if you want it all, which is the nature of the senses, right? Are you ever happy with just one? Right? That's that Doritos commercial. You can't eat just one, right? This whole world is like that. Every billboard out there is trying to make you hungry. You know, every advertisement on the television and the radio is trying to tell you you're missing something and we can sell it to you, right? The end game of capitalism is to make you completely helpless. You can't play your own music. You have to buy a CD. You know, you can't entertain yourself. You need a TV, a radio, a computer, right? Capitalism is to take all of your inherent ability away from you and then sell it back to you. And so this is how we discern. We look carefully at our values. We look carefully at the things in life that are available to us. We look at their results. We take them to their nth degree. If I have that glass of wine, suppose I have 10 of those glasses of wine. What will that do to me? Suppose I get in the habit of drinking 10 glasses of wine. What's that going to do to me? And you look around and you say, oh, look what happened to that person. You know, see, this is what happens when you give yourself over to the pleasant and you begin to follow it and look for it. Because it is a trap, right? There is no satiation for it. There is no end to it. Because it will always never be enough, right? Everything has an expiration date. Your intoxication will last X amount of time. And when it sets you down, it will not set you down in the same place that you entered into it. It will set you down in a worse place. You'll have a headache. You'll be less healthy. You'll gain some weight. You may have done quite a few things that you're not very proud of, that now you have to carry around and deal with. So discern, pay attention to your life, right? The religion is not captured in belief. Religion is captured in observation. The truth is self-evident, right? Swami Chidbrahmananda in San Francisco taught me. He had just moved to the States. This is one of my favorite stories. And I was helping him move his books and stuff into his cell in the monastery. And I was putting these notebooks, handwritten notebooks, big fat binders, those 3-ring, but those big 3-ring binders. I had put like 14 of them on a shelf. They were all handwritten. And I turned to him, I said, Maharaj, I said, what's all this writing? What is all of this? And he, very dismissively, as he was unpacking his own box, he says to me, oh, that's just some of my unpublished works. I was like, oh. It's like, gosh, I could fit all of my published and unpublished works on a dinner napkin. I mean, I don't need 14 binders. And so it led us into a conversation about the scriptures. And he said to me, one of the things that was very striking to me, he says, the scriptures are not there to tell you about what God is. They can't tell you. Nobody can tell you what God is. He said the scriptures are there to tell you what God is not, so that which is obvious can become apparent to you. Is that not a wonderful statement? So that which is obvious. The truth is obvious. God is obvious. The presence is obvious. But it can only become apparent to you by paying attention, right? By keeping the mind free of what? Me and mine, the ideas of selfishness. Keep the mind free of me and mine, and the clearer it is, the more clearly you'll see the reflection of the divine in the mind, right? The scriptures say it's very much like the moon over a lake, right? If the lake is calm, you can clearly see the moon in the lake and know what it is, understand it completely. But twirl that way, mix that lake up, give it waves, look at that reflection of the moon, you have no idea what it is. It's 1,000 shards of light that are constantly changing and dancing, and you will have a very difficult time ever knowing that that's the moon, unless your guru says, hey, that's the moon, right? Then you know. And so the mind is the same way. To the pure soul, pure meaning no me and mine. In mind, the mind is a calm lake if there's no me and mine in it. Right? Me and mine are the two fingers that stir the lake of the mind, give you an agitated mind. And in agitated mind, the unity, God, cannot be identified. He's 1,000 shards of light sparkling everywhere. That's what causes your desire. You see a sparkle of light in that mountain, and you want to go there, in that person, and you want to marry them. That person you want to be their friend, or that ring you want to put on your finger, right? What is it that's catching your desire in those? It's a sparkle of the divine. that you have not sussed out, you have not discerned to understand the nature of your desire and where it arose from, and that it cannot give you what it's promising. You know, I remember that first time when I was in college. I had no money, like any college student. And I used to go down to Union Square. There was a Bang & Olufsen stereo store. I don't know if you know of Bang & Olufsen, but it's a very high-end, hi-fi stereo company out of Denmark, I think it is. And their stuff is just, they're like the Apple computers of the stereo world. And I used to look at this Bang & Olufsen stereo, you know, it was like this smoked glass, and you put your hand in front of the glass, would automatically part. It had this cool little device that you just drop the CD and it would catch it and hold it and put it in place. And it was just like, oh my God, that's beautiful. I must have this thing. But, you know, it's like $4,000. And I was a college student. I could never have that thing. And then I remember graduating from college and getting my first job as a computer engineer. And with my very first paycheck, I could go down and buy a Bang & Olufsen stereo. So I went down there, I caught the taxi, I told him to wait out front, I'll bring it out, you know, got that thing. I took that thing home, gave that check to the salesman for that amount of money. And I got that thing home and I set it up on my dresser and I put it there and I put my first CD on it and I sat down on my chair and I listened to the CD. And this sickening feeling came into my stomach as I understood that's all it does. It doesn't do anything more than my Jambox did. Didn't provide anything more to me, but the music, what was on my CDs. And I sat there and I thought, yeah, it's pretty to look at. I'm like, yeah, but you've looked at it. You haven't seen anything different than you saw in the store window, right? And this is how we learn. This is how we understand. These things cannot satisfy us. That's why you have all these billionaires out there who practically own the world. They're all still working their heads off to control, to get more. If money was the answer, certainly they would be kicking back happy, relaxed, chilled out, enjoying their money, but they're not. Why? Because you can never have enough. You are an infinite soul, and you cannot find anything infinite in the finite world. That's the lesson. That's what he's trying to tell him here. He says that, yes, he prefers the good to the pleasant, but the fool chooses the pleasant out of greed and avarice, out of a constant hunger. Right? You start saving money, you can't wait to save more money. You know, you get $10,000 in that account. Oh, I'm going to go for 15. You get to 15. Oh, I'm getting a 25. You get 25. You're like, oh, I still don't have a down payment on a house. I got to get 50, 75. Oh, wait, I want a bigger house. Right? And on and round it goes. We've all heard this before. And yet most of us are still chasing these things, still running after them. We have not renounced yet. We have not given up this pursuit of foolishness. So that's what death is doing for you tonight, challenging you. Will you stop this foolishness? Stop looking for things outside of yourself. Sit down in a quiet place and look within. I'm here. I'm with you. I have everything that will satisfy you as a human being. Now keep looking. O Nachiketa, after pondering well the pleasures that are or seem to be delightful, you have renounced them all. You have not taken the road abounding in wealth where many men sink. Right? You have seen the nature of these things. Did I read those 2 verses on renunciation that I went up there to read? Where he says, O death, these things endure only till tomorrow. Furthermore, they exhaust the vigor of all the sense organs, right? They wear your body down. Pleasure, you know, look at somebody that's given their life to pleasure. You know, it's just that pallor to the face, that puffiness. You know? Well, anyway, you'll see it, you know it. So death, you know, they only endure till tomorrow. Everything in this world will end. That's why it's not the answer. You'll have to keep working to replace it. Right? They exhaust the vigor of your senses. Even the longest life is short indeed on the last day. Keep your horses, keep your dances and your songs for yourself. These are the things that death had just tempted him with. He says, wealth can never make a man happy. Moreover, since I have seen you, death, I shall certainly obtain wealth. I shall also live as long as you rule. Therefore, no boon will be accepted by me, but the one that I have asked for. Who among the decaying mortals here below having approached the undecaying immortals and coming to know that his higher needs may be fulfilled by them, would ever exult in a life that was overlong, after he had pondered on the pleasures arising from beauty and song? Tell me, O death, of that great hereafter about which a man has his doubts. So you see a perfect way of discernment there. Understand, yes, you can have a long life, but that long life on the last day is not going to be long enough, right? Yes, you can have lots of money, but when you are confronted with that thing that costs $1 more, that money is not going to be enough. I remember in the 90s when computers were still pretty new, the internet was new, and all that competition was new. And you would see Bill Gates was the richest person in the world, and then Larry Ellison was in competition with Oracle Corporation. And I used to kind of enjoy the little race that was always going on between the two of them. One day Bill Gates was the richest man in the world, and then there'd be a little stock shift, and the next day Larry Ellison was the richest man in the world. And I just knew intuitively that that bothered them terribly. I'm second place now, I'm not first place. And that's the nature of this world, right? So you have not taken the road abounding in wealth, where many men sink. Why depart, and leading to different ends are these two, ignorance and what is known as knowledge. I regard you, O Nachiketa, to be one who desires knowledge, for even many pleasures could not tempt you away. Right? So he gives these two things, ignorance, not just general ignorance, not ignorance of the relative world and relative things in the world, things of the mind. That's not the ignorance he's talking about. He's talking about the ignorance of the real, the ignorance of that which does not change. You're ignorant of yourself. You do not know who you are. You don't know what your nature is. You're a blind person trying to find sight when you have no idea what you're looking for. If you don't know your nature, how will you know what will bring you pleasure? How do you know what will make you content? How do you know what will give you peace? Right? You have to know who you are. And that happens only in the silence of contemplation, where you become aware that your nature is Chidbrahmananda. Right? It's that pure, unconditioned love. It's that pure wisdom, spontaneous wisdom of being. Right? It's your own existence, the mystery of your existence. If you know that that's who you are, live accordingly. Do things that are inspired by an unconditioned love. Do things that are steeped in a deep wisdom through your being. And a happy life will always be the byproduct. Right? Never seek a happy life. Don't seek a contented life. Anything that you seek directly like that will elude you in this world. Live according to your nature, which is another, your nature is divine. So live according to the precepts of God, if you want to talk in those terms, the duality. It's the same statement. That is your nature. The image of God is what you are. So live according to the teachings of the beloved, and you will have your contentment, your fulfillment. So this is what he considers ignorance, is not knowing who you are. And knowledge, again, is not a knowledge of philosophy or things that fit in the mind, things that are relative, things that need something else to be true for them to be true. That's not knowledge. Knowledge is knowing what you are and the nature of that being, that you are immortal, ever free, ever pure, ever blissful, never dying, never birthing, always one without a second, content in and of itself, unchanging. That is your nature. Come and seek that knowledge within yourself. Find that reality through discernment, through careful observation. Fools, dwelling in darkness, but thinking themselves wise and erudite, educated, go round and round by various tortuous paths, like the blind led by the blind. Right? That as long as you stay deluded, which delusion is believing you're a body, believing you're a mind. Right? We talked about, again, we've pointed so much at that notion of observation, of discernment inside, because this is not a belief. This is not a philosophical proposition. It is a self-evident reality if you pay attention. Go inside yourself, sit in your silence and watch, and you will see The body has to talk to you. It has to tell you when it's sick. It has to tell you when it's tired. It has to tell you when it's hungry. If it was you, it wouldn't have to tell you anything. It would be self-evident. The mind also, you are a watcher of mind. Your thoughts dance in front of you. Become aware of that and never forget it. These thoughts are a function, we talked about this in the living room a few moments ago, that your mind is just an organ that secretes thought. Every thought is related to the previous thought. You cannot break that chain. You cannot have an original thought at this moment because you are not your mind. The mind is purely an organ secreting thought. And you will choose arbitrarily the ones you identify with. Oh yeah, that defines me. And then the mind will start producing thoughts that got the attention, right? More thoughts like that one. And it just continues on like that. The body is the same way. All right. Fools dwelling in darkness, blind led by the blind. The hereafter never reveals itself to a person devoid of discrimination, devoid of discernment, heedless and perplexed by the delusion of wealth. This world alone exists, he thinks, and there is no other. Again and again, he comes under my sway. So who's talking? Death, right? That's funny because in the Christian scripture, it also says, what is the wages of sin? Death, right? And what is sin according to the Vedanta? It's the identity with body, mind, the identity with the temporary as yourself. That's what leads you to your hungers and your lusts and your greeds, is identifying with that which is ever hungry, ever needy, right? And so whose sway do you come under? Death. When you're laying there on your deathbed, you will have no knowledge that you are not the body and that you are not the mind. And you will not lay there and watch the body die, knowing that you are beyond that. You will believe yourself to be that dying body, and that sense of panic will come over you, and that sense of loss will consume you, and that fear of dying and facing the unknown will be what he says, what he's describes here. What does he say? That you come under my sway, that there's terror in all of that. That's the wages of this ignorance, of this confusion. And when you after the body passes, you choose another one, right? Because that's who you think you are. And you come again, over and over and over again. But the fools, those who think they are themselves wise and erudite, right? What does that? When you gather knowledge that isn't knowledge. And what is knowledge that isn't knowledge? When you gather relative knowledge. Knowledge that depends on something else to be true. All of philosophy, all of education, all of secular learning. Not that it doesn't have value within a certain context, that's not the point, but it's not the answer to you because it's relative and because it's dependent on objects and things of a temporary world that won't always exist. And so it's not of any benefit to you in your search for inner peace, your search for a fulfilling life. You can get lots of other stuff from it, lots of bubble gum, whatever you need. So it's not totally without its value, but it's never the point. It's never the thing to be pursued. Many there are who do not even hear of Atman, right? Atman is the reality, that ultimate reality. They use the Atman in many ways, actually. You can have an embodied Atman, the embodied soul, which is you with an individual soul, a soul that has attributes and some sense of self. But the Atman in its reality, it's kind of like this here. If I put my hand under this cloth, let's say this is Atman, and I put a little rubber band around each one of my fingers there, right? Each one of those rubber bands, that rubber band is ignorance, right? The knowledge, the lack of knowledge of oneness. And you've got what you think is 5 separate entities under there. And then pull on the cloth, pull the rubber bands off, and you see there were no individual souls. There were no individual people. It was all the divine I, the divine is, or as the name of God, I am, right? Your fundamental reality, I am, is the same in all of us. It's just being pressed through a different set of limitations and restrictions and coming out the front of our face as personality, right? With a name. But it's all the one before it goes through the machine of ignorance. Right, so many are there who do not even ever hear of the Atman. And some, though hearing of him, many do not even comprehend Wonderful is the expounder, and rare the hearer. Rare indeed is the experiencer of Atman, taught by an able preceptor. Right? So it's rare even to have this opportunity. To be interested in these things is rare. Rarer even is then to hear and understand them. But then the greatest of all is to experience them, to make them your own, to know it to be true. Right? And so that's where real religion happens. Real religion doesn't happen in belief structures, dogmas, doctrines, creeds, and philosophies. Those change all the time and will always change, and our understanding of them will change all the time, right? But that which is real within you, that which is unchanging within you, is not subject to this world, is not conditioned by the circumstances of this world. It remains the same always. And its nature is that pure hum of bliss, of love and wisdom. Right? So don't let your mind turn the self into white noise and filter it out so that you then believe you have to look for your bliss. Go into silence and discover that bliss is always humming underneath the surface. Go into silence and understand that you're surrounded in a wisdom. As long as you're not identified with the point of any particular identity, wisdom will be your guide. Wisdom will be available to you. Right? Go in and discover this within you. God is within you. That divine reality is within you. It's behind the screen of your mind. It's behind the screen of your body. It's before your thinking. It's in the silence of your shrine, the shrine of the heart. Find the shrine of your heart by following the sensation of love to the heart. And sit there and be quiet and be taught. This knowledge cannot be attained by reasoning, right? Because reason comes from mind. Reason is relative. If this, then that. Right? But change this, then that changes. So it's not reason that takes us there, right? It's discernment, which is quite different, looking at the nature of things. This knowledge cannot be attained by reasoning. Atman becomes easy of comprehension, O dearest, when taught by another. You have attained this knowledge now. You are indeed a man of true resolve. May we always have an inquirer like you. Right? So he's very happy with Nachiketas. That's why he's giving him all these boons. He loves that renunciation, that commitment that Nachiketas had to his truth. I want the truth. I don't want dancing girls. I want knowledge. I don't want entertainment. I don't want distraction. I want to know God. I want to know what this is that I am. What is this experience of being? What is its nature? Right? What is it? Yama said, I know that the treasure resulting from action is not eternal. Another way of saying that everything in this world that you get, you're going to lose. There's nothing permanent here. For what is eternal cannot be obtained by the non-eternal, right? So if you identify yourself with the non-eternal, the body, mind, and you go seeking the eternal, know that you've chosen the wrong tool. Know that you cannot acquire the unchanging through the changing. That's why the sages say the path is not this, right? When you try and identify what you are, you're identified by what you are not, because you cannot be identified with anything. You're unlimited, you're infinite. So you cannot be any one thing. So you're just not this, not this, not this. And really what happens for the bhakta, for the practitioner of devotion, is through the practice of not this, you back into the lap of the Divine Mother, right? You just bump into it and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, here we go. All right, this is it, right? You find the comfort of the lap of the Divine Mother by backing into it, by saying, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the thoughts, I'm not the sensations, I'm not the philosophy, I'm not this being, I'm not an age, I'm not a gender. And you just keep going, just keep backing, withdrawing. And what that does is it allows you to move into the silence. You can't really move into silence by telling yourself what to do, because there's noise in telling yourself what to do. So you do it by not doing, not doing. And he says, for what is eternal cannot be obtained by the non-eternal. Yet I have performed the Nachiketa sacrifice with the help of non-eternal things and attained this position which is only relatively eternal. This is death talking. The fulfillment of desires, the foundation of the universe, the rewards of sacrifices, the shore where there is no fear, that which is adorable and great, the wide abode of the goal. All this you have seen, and being wise, you have a firm resolve to discard everything else. And that is the renunciation of the sannyasa. You know, that's what made a Jesus, a Buddha, a Rama, a Rama. They knew their nature. They were not deluded because they were born pure, without the idea of me and mine driving their life. They became holes through which God could be seen, holes through ignorance. So that that's why Jesus could say, those who have seen me have seen the Father. You know, because you look through that hole. Avatars, when they come, they are not personalities. They are not part of history, space, and time. They're absences of egoism, absences of ignorance. They are the pure self before it becomes intoxicated with its attributes. Right? And so through that purity, you see them, you look through them, and you see God. You see the divine principle, Satchitananda, emanating, inspiring, beautiful, desirable, loving. The mortal has heard this and comprehended it well, who has separated that Atman, the very soul of Dharma, of right living or truth, from all physical objects and has realized the subtle essence, rejoices because he has obtained that which is the cause of rejoicing. The abode of Brahman, the abode of God, I believe, is open for Nachiketa. What a thing to hear. The door is open to you, right? So the mortal, that's us, who has heard this, right? So we're hearing it. Have we comprehended it? That's practice, right? Have you made it your own? Interesting thing, when the direct disciples of Ramakrishna, after he died, they had already realized God. You know, they had sat and lived in the company of a realized soul, had their own realization. And yet after Ramakrishna left the body, they all practiced their meditation hard. And the devotees went to them and said, what's going on here? You've already reached the goal. It was like, yes, but now we're making it our own. Now we knew the truth because we were taught the truth. And we knew the truth and saw it through Ramakrishna. But now that reminder is gone, now we make it our own, right? We do this work, we establish ourselves in this place so that we can't get pulled out of it. We can't become deluded. We can't unknow these truths. So the mortal who has heard this and comprehended it well, who has separated that Atman, what does that mean? That means that you've gone inside, you've recognized body and its boundaries within you. You've recognized mind and its boundaries within you. You've studied how they interact with each other, how they cause delusion, how they allow enlightenment. You see their relationship, and you've firmly established yourself as separate from them. You see clearly and are never confused that you are not the mind and its conditions, and you are not the body and its conditions. And being established in that, you cannot be pulled into that fight anymore. You cannot get tossed by that sea anymore. You are outside of it. So the mortal who has heard of this and comprehended it well, who has separated that Atman, the very soul of Dharma, of right living, the truth, the proper, the right, the good, from all physical objects, right? Separated it from all these physical objects. You understand this is a dream. This isn't real. This is the mind reflecting the divine in all of its possibilities to me. And you recognize that, never forgetting you're the observer, that you're not the one involved. You're not surrounded. You are observing, like watching a movie and never forgetting it's a screen, never forgetting that it's just light on a white screen. Right? So you stay sober. You don't get pulled into the story. You don't get disturbed by the pain. You don't get afraid of the horror. You watch it all. who has separated the Atman, the very soul of Dharma, from all physical objects and has realized the subtle essence. What is it that's making everything dance? And Vivekananda gives us a clue. He says, love. Love is the only motivating force in the universe. It's for the love of power that the murderer murders. You know, it's for the love of wealth that the thief steals. You know, it's always a matter of love. And so when you see these horrendous things in this world, it's much easier to move toward this truth because it's a very difficult truth. You know, who wants to look at the Holocaust and say that that was motivated by love? But it was. It was motivated. Hitler had an ideal, had something he loved, a thought that, you know, an ideal that was based completely on body. He had measurements for noses, and measurements for foreheads, and colors of eyes, and colors of hair. So he was completely devoted to an ideal that was based on body-mind. And what happened? Well, a very small number of people benefited greatly from him. They loved him. You know, he didn't become the head of Germany because he was hated. He shared his ideal and he deluded everybody to follow along. Yes, my ideal is a great one. Yes, well, those people over there, they don't match up. They're not as good as we are, right? Emphasize that and lured them into the trap to the point where there was no turning back. They couldn't get out. They had already cast their votes, made their decisions, and now the karma had to play, right? And so we come to know that this love is the essence in there. And what's the difference? It's just a matter of degree, really. You know, you could say that Hitler and others like him were avatars, were incarnations of ignorance, things ideal based on the changing, the passing, and the world suffered for it. What's the difference between him and a Jesus or a Buddha? Well, Jesus had an ideal based on the unchanging, the self, the spirit, the soul, taught of a love that was beyond condition, right? And he benefited millions, maybe billions, but there was a handful who hated him, a handful that didn't benefit from his position and from his teaching, and they crucified him. You see, that's the only difference. What do you identify with? If you identify with the body, you're headed in that direction of the scale, down toward the Mussolinis and the Hitlers. You identify with soul, identify with love as your nature, identify with the universal self within you and see that in everyone. You're moving toward the Jesus end of the scale, toward the Buddha end of the scale, the Ramakrishna end of the scale. You join the avatars in their freedom, right? So he who has separated that Atman, the very soul of Dharma, from all physical objects, and has realized the subtle essence of Satchitananda, love, wisdom, and being, rejoices because he has obtained the very cause of rejoicing, right? You discover that steady, constant sound of bliss within that becomes particularized anytime you chase your desires, right? But it in itself has no condition, no limit. When it comes out of you in its natural way, it goes everywhere equally. So it's why for a Jesus, everybody was his mother, everybody was his brother, everybody was his sister. You know, he saw that love for everyone. It's one of those things when I first joined the monastery, oh my God, that was the hardest thing, is the hardest thing for me, you know, to be out of touch with my parents. You know, these things, and I talked to Swami many, many, many times about it. I was like, Maharaj, why do I have to cause my parents so much pain for something so beautiful? Why is that a requirement? He says, it's only temporary. It's not the ideal to renounce your parents. He says, but for a monk, we take the path of pushing everybody back at arm's length and then bringing everyone forward equally so that we learn to love everyone as our mother. We learn to love everyone as our brother, as our sister. And in the end, that is love. And you're able to love freely, and you're able to give it to people who have not known it from any other source. And that is the meaning of life. That is the point of fulfillment, when you learn to love everyone as your dearest mother. So the wise man who by means of concentration on the self, right, realizes that ancient, effulgent one who is hard to be seen, unmanifest, hidden, and who dwells in the buddhi and rests in the body, he indeed leaves joy and sorrow far behind, right? So let's break that down. A man who by means of concentration on the self, right? That self is the soul, your awareness. Let's call it awareness, right? That pure awareness is what you are. It is the light of love and wisdom, right? And it becomes particularized, it becomes manifested when it grabs a body, when it identifies with something that's temporary, right? So the man who by means of concentrating on the self, keep your mind on your awareness and on your awareness alone. Don't be pulled away by the changing. Stay on the steady hum of love that's within you, that steady room of wisdom, the shrine of the heart, the unchanging. You realize that ancient, right? It's actually eternal. It's outside of time. And one of the first experiences or realizations that you will have when you go into yourself and you touch this kind of concentration, one of the first things you become aware of is your eternal nature, because you'll realize that time is not in there. You come to know there are no boundaries within yourself at all, that there is only this one, this eternal. And you see that eternity is outside of time. And it's a simple thing to experience, because you'll sit there that first time that you concentrate. And when you come out of your concentration, you'll have the impression that minutes have passed. And you look at the clock, oh my God, I've been here for 2 hours, right? Because you've touched the timeless. You've come to know the nature of the self, one of the natures of the self, that eternal self. So you realize that ancient, effulgent one, that one that glows, the source of all light. Right? We were touching on this in the living room there a little while ago, that's that light of awareness, that light of consciousness, right? The best way to understand what that light of consciousness is think of a dream, right? That dream happens in darkness. The room is dark, you're under the covers, it's in your brain is inside your head. There's no source of light in there whatsoever. And yet you'll have a dream in daylight. You'll see everything very clearly. How is that possible? That's the light of consciousness, the light of awareness. The effulgent one is shining and reflecting off of your mind. Know yourself to be the source of that light and not the objects that it is illuminating. Know yourself to be the light of consciousness in your dream. That's the truth of it. And if you touch that, then you will know yourself to be both the dreamed and the dreamer. You will know yourself to be dreaming, and you will understand the nature of the dream, and you will not be afraid, and you will not be caught up in its story, and you will not be terrified by its particulars. So this effulgent one is within you. And that dream, again, I'm going to drag us through this again because it's such an important thing, that dream world is not different from this world. You have never seen this world, right? And this will be my third night bringing this point up. But I bring it up every day. I sit every morning on the edge of my bed and I touch my bedspread and I sit there and I remember I'm in the mind of God. I'm in the mind of God. This is not a material world. I have never seen a material world. I have only experienced the mind of the beloved, and this is what this is, right? And you can have that evidence because you will know that nothing is experienced directly, right? And again, I'll just walk us through it because it's important to not forget this. You have never seen that light that's on the roof right there. Never seen it. It has gone into your eye. It has stopped at the back of your eye and through the cones and rods or whatever that's in there has been converted to information. That information was sent to the mind and the mind created a symbol. And you, the observer, the watcher, can only see the symbol of the mind. And the sages say that that's all there is. There is not an internal and external world. There is only this. It's one, and it's not inside or outside, right? Or it's ultimately inside you. Vivekananda says, I'm not in Alameda. Alameda is in me. I'm not in this city, right? This city is in me. And so it's that understanding. And there's no way to verify its source. You say, oh, but my eye sees the outside world. Well, your eye is a symbol for something that sees the outside world. It also is just a symbol. There's no reality to it. You cannot verify an external world. Right? It's the same for the sounds you're hearing. It's the same things for the things that you're touching. It's all interpreted knowledge. And this will become clear to you when you touch something real for the first time. When you have a divine experience. We talked about this earlier also. That for the first time, when you get a direct communication, something that doesn't come in through the senses, but comes directly to you without the instruments and the organs, but comes directly to you in a spiritual vision or a spiritual understanding, it drops in with full understanding. You don't have to do anything with it. It comes as a knowing that is complete in and of itself. And it is so clean and so precise and so fully understood that you will wonder after you've come out of it, how have I worked with this clunky form of talking, communicating that we are forced to suffer with? You know, I just think about it. I'm telling you this. What are you getting from me right now? Just a bunch of sounds made by this funny tongue wiggling all around in my mouth, right? Formed by these lips. And you get that. But all of the stuff that I'm putting into those sounds, you don't get it. I can't give you the experiences. I can't give you the sights, the sounds, the tastes, the touches, the smells, the emotional truths and understandings. I can't give any of that, right? I can just give you this sound, and you take this sound, and what do you have to do? You have to project all of your own stuff on those sounds, and we just sit there with our fingers crossed, hoping we understand each other. I hope what you're getting is what I'm sending, you know, but I have no way of knowing, and you have no way of knowing. And so, but there is something beyond that, you know, but you have to go into a deep silence, or the person giving it to you has to be established in that deep silence. And they can tell you something, they can give you a word, and you won't get the sound. You'll get the entire meaning of everything they put into that sound as a package that will drop into your mind. And it won't be the sound, a sentence. It won't be a learning. It will be a knowing. And it will feel like you have always known this. How did I always know this and not see it? This thing that has always been there. That's divine knowledge. You know, when these little revelations come to us, they come to us like that. It's a knowing. You know, Vedanta for me, many people have shared the same experience, that the one thing I loved after I found the Vedanta was that I kept feeling like somebody had gone in and gathered up all of my aha moments that I had in my life, outlined them, organized them, wrote a beautiful essay and gave it back to me. And I read it and I'm like, that's exactly what I've always known, but could never have said, could never have organized, could never have uttered, right? So truth is that way. It's something that inside you're like, yes, I don't know how I know that's true. I don't know where it's coming from, but I know without a doubt that is truth, right? We have those experiences. So this self-manifesting, this luminous self inside, that is lighting up your world, that is being reflected on mind as the world that you're experiencing in this moment. That light and that source is the only true thing. Right? So he says, that this effulgent one who is hard to be seen, right? Very difficult to place your awareness on awareness. Right? That's how the Gyanis talk about it. Place your awareness on your awareness, or the bhakti is the devotees, the devotees of God call it, you know, the presence, the divine presence. Sit in the divine presence. Sit in the awareness of the divine mother, or the awareness of the divine father. You know, to sit in that awareness. It's hard to be seen, right? Because it's very, very, very subtle. It's unmanifest. It doesn't have a form. It doesn't have a boundary. You can't trap it. You can't hold on to it. You can't grab it. It's only found through surrender and silence. As soon as you reach out to take, you reach out to grab, it disappears. It's unmanifest, hidden, and who dwells in the buddhi. That buddhi is this constant discernment, this ability to know what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is not true. It dwells in the buddhi and rests in the body. He indeed leaves joy and sorrow far behind. Interesting. You're like, why? I thought you told me that that's how I find bliss. Yes, what you're leaving behind is the pairs of opposites. You're leaving joy and sorrow behind, the back and forth, the ups and downs, for a steady contentment. That's why we call it bliss and not happiness. Bliss is inherently yours. Happiness is always generated. The bliss that is inherently yours needs nothing. It is always present. It's always dependable. But happiness, you constantly have to manufacture it, generate it. It takes work. All right, so we'll stop there. It's 8:30, believe it or not. Anybody? Yes. I'm sorry, I wanted to leave more time for questions. But I'm here, even when the class isn't.
Sure. Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to be doing a hike up Stone Mountain. Swami will be joining us.
Lights. Are you going up or are you doing lights?
Oh, right. We're going to. The weather's good. See, when the weather's bad, when it rains, the trails around the lake get flooded. But it looks like the weather's going to be real good tomorrow, so we're going to go on the trails around the lake. And I'll take a picture of the map and post where we're going to start the hike tomorrow, which is kind of like by this playground right by the lake.
You're posting it in WhatsApp? Or
That's
where?
it.
All right. Anybody have a question? If there's no questions, or if you want to wait until the living room.
I'm gonna wait till
Swami,
Yes.
yes, I'm online, obviously.
Yes, fine, surely.
I hope that my question is going to come out in the words that are in my mind.
Uh-huh.
So, when I attend your talks, in the beginning, I'm like full of attention, absorbing. And it's so beautiful that towards the end, I almost feel like I'm in a trance. Is this listening to talks like this could be considered part of sadhana?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It is sadhana. Yes. And to make them your own is practice, is an added form of that sadhana. So yes, you're hearing. Now you have to contemplate it. You have to sit and chew it, chew the cud, as they say, and make it your own. So be aware that anything that is ever taught from the mouth of it, from someone, it's yours then to take it and find its truth. Oh, I'm not the mind. So go inside and see that you're not the mind. You're not the body. Oh, yes. So go inside and see that you're not the body. Right? So make it your own through practice. And practice is more than just japam. Japam is great. And actually, japam can give it all to you. There's no doubt about it. But along with that, to test these things. Like I said yesterday, I mean, one of the worst mistakes that religion has made is to sell itself as belief. Right? That somehow belief is important. No, belief is not the thing at all. Realization is the thing. What is realization? It's a direct experience of the truth, of the isness of things. So investigate, do the practice, set up experiments for yourself. I'm always amazed at how uncreative we are as seekers, right? We just sit and we just do the same old thing over and over and over again. It's not really moving us anywhere. We just kind of sit and punch our time card in and get insistent about it. Go in there, set up experiments. Like, okay, how can I possibly see that I'm not the body? How can I'm not the doer? What are you talking about? That's insanity. How could I not be the doer? How can you even say that? Well, if it's true, it must be observable, right? If it's a condition like that anyway. Yes, so go. And do what the sages say. Brahmananda said, he said, go do these practices as I tell you, do them for a year. And if you have not felt any bliss, come back and slap me. He says, I guarantee it. Do the work, right? All these people running around saying, oh, this is false, this is foolishness, this isn't true, religion is not real. They haven't done the work, right? They haven't done the experiments. They haven't gone into the lab, right? And so, and there's no judgment on them. It's just the way that this world is. Right? People are saying the same thing about these physicists that are doing that. What's that new physics? What's it called? Oh, come on. Somebody tell me, what is that?
Quantum mechanics.
Thank you. Quantum physics. Yes. Thank you for saving me in my ignorance. Quantum physics, they're teaching things that are harder to believe than religion is. They're actually teaching things that are just like religion. I just read 2 days ago that the reality that they're looking at is sort of a lake of black goo, which doesn't take form until it's observed, in which time travels forward and backwards simultaneously. That's science. I was a boy, that was pure religion. And now that's science. So set up the experiments, do the work. Yes, what you're being told is crazy. There's one without a second. There's an absolute unchanging. This is an illusion. It is not the thing itself. Yes, it's all absolutely insane. Absolutely it is. But it can be seen. It can be known, right? And it's the point of your life to know it, to understand it, and to see it, because it's the discovery of who you are.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Go forward. Find freedom.
Can I ask a question really quickly?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not thought-provoking or awe-inspiring. I was just wondering if someone could send me the information for the WhatsApp group.
Oh, yes. Anybody, all the people here who know the WhatsApp group? Maggie, let me, can you send me a chat text to me personally with your email address? And
I definitely can.
What's required for WhatsApp, email or phone number?
The phone
Phone number. Okay, so send me your phone number, and I'll make sure that gets to the people who are doing the WhatsApp group.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Right. Okay, so we'll do that.
Namaste, Swamiji. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
My question is, I have a confusion with the Nishkam karma. Like, I know it's just you surrender and you know that you're not separate and just small drop in a big ocean and a part of it and everything is happening, and give up the doership. But at the same time, the struggle with the day-to-day life, you're planning. How can we live without planning in the future when you have kids and stuff? So it's the balance to find with the Nishkam karma. And I don't know if you can guide a little bit how we can tread this water carefully, and knowing that we're trying to do Nishkam karma and not bringing ourselves into it, and at the same time not putting off our duties. And so it's a confusion that I have. How can we have to do our to-do list, and when you do, but then if you don't do to-do list and you just surrender, okay, it's going to happen, what's going to happen? So it's a very confusing thing.
Yes, it is. You don't want to get ahead of yourself. The means for it really is observation. It really is a careful discernment. At the beginning of the week, write down your plan for Saturday. And then on Sunday, write down what you did on Saturday. And see how much of your planning actually came to fruition, right? And you'll come to see that quite often it's completely different. And yet you will believe that you planned it. You will believe that you made it happen, right? So we go on carrying on life as we see necessary, but we keep our eyes open. We keep ourselves discerning the whole time, all the way through, right? And you just keep going with your practice. The truth isn't found outside of yourself. Go within, right? Sit there, come to know that you're not mind and not the body, and sit in that silent place, and then let your children talk to you and see how differently it hits you, right? Don't have them talk to you as a person, as the part you're playing in the world, as a mother or father or brother or sister. Sit in a silence, assume nothing, and have your children talk to you. And see where the response comes from inside. Don't contemplate it. Don't calculate it. Be silent and let the words be inspired, not calculated, but inspired. Let come up what comes up spontaneously. And if you do that practice, you find you won't get caught up in the dramas of your relationships. You won't have anger, selfishness, desires, wants, and things come into the way and color everything. Because what you will be is manifesting your Satchitananda, your unconditioned love, and hearing it without a perspective, which gives it a universal truth, right? And so practice doing that, not from a place of calculation, but from a place of silence, a place of calmness that you establish in yourself through your practice, right? And experiment. Experiment. The truth is self-evident. It will show itself to you. So if you don't see it, don't make decisions on it just yet. Trust it, put it in your pocket and hold on to it, and keep observing the world, you know, as it goes, and go forward in it, you know. So you can do it that way. Ramakrishna says, you know, especially with your family and whatnot, understand they're not yours, right? You're going to die and leave your children. That's going to happen. You know, in an unfortunate circumstance, they die and leave you. But always know that that's the reality of it, right? They're not yours. They belong to the Divine Mother. They belong to the universe. So don't get that personal attachment to them where you start demanding that they live for your happiness and your approval and your judgment, right? See them as a manifestation of your beloved, of the divine, and know that the truth of that is what you love in them, right? And if you want to see that, create an experiment. Write down what you love most about your son or your daughter, and then compare that to what the scriptures say are the qualities of God. And you will become clear to you that what you love in everyone is the divine in them, the divine qualities, the manifestation of God. Look at all of your desires. Write down very carefully, what exactly is it in that thing that I love, that I like, that I'm drawn to? And compare that to a list of the qualities of the beloved, the divine person. And you will always see that it is always the name of God hidden in all the objects that attract you, that make you want them and desire them, right? And so just doing that, just seeing that, understanding that God is in your children, that's why you love them. And so approach him with the God that's in you through that silence, through that calmness, through that non-attachment, and you'll be the best mom. And you will have well-balanced and healthy children, you know, who aren't stressed out by everything in their life out of the terror that their parents aren't going to be happy with them. Right? Let your love be unconditioned and let it inspire the same in them. Don't worry about the other details. They come along as they come along. You be love, express love. It's the one most important thing. And within the knowledge of love comes all the other stuff, all the other realities. So yeah, try that one. You know, I remember there was a woman who had a daughter, teenage daughter, and she was really struggling with this teenage daughter. The daughter was so mean to her. She said, I've never felt like somebody hated me more than my daughter hates me. And she says, and yet I'm the one that takes her to softball practice and picks her up at Girl Scouts and drives her to school and makes her lunch and helps her with her homework and buys her clothes. And she says, I have to tell you, I feel so guilty because I'm feeling such a resentment for my daughter. And I said to her, I said, well, let's see what we can do. I said, when you do anything for your daughter during the day, write it down on a little piece of paper and put it in your pocket. And at the end of the day, go upstairs to your shrine and put a piece of camphor in a brass bowl and light it. And one by one, take everything that you think you did for your daughter and offer it to the Lord. And say to the Lord with each one, oh, Mother, I did this for you today. I did this for you today. I did this for you today. And burn it up, right? Never think about it again. You did nothing for your daughter that day. You did everything for the Divine Mother that day. And she reported back anyway that solved her problem. She was able to separate the two and see the distinction. And she stopped being resentful, right? She saw that it was a challenge. It made her gift even greater because it was difficult to give. And it wasn't always reciprocated, which made it burn up karma. So try these things, practice these things, you know, look at puja, look at worship. How do you make real life worship? How do you make, because puja is just an external manifestation of an internal reality, right? A shrine, a temple, same thing, just an external manifestation of an internal reality. The real shrine is within you. And everything that you do is an offering. Everything that you think is a prayer. Right? So become aware of your prayers, become aware of your actions, what you're asking for, and know the truth that nothing is done for anyone, but for God, by God.
Thank you.
All right. I've got some people so devoted here they refuse to leave the auditorium. So we better call it a night. All right.